नया आइडिया, कन्या मान।
हर राम का अपना रावण, हर राम का अपना दशहरा।
Recently, we saw an ad by Manyavar featuring Alia Bhatt. They have called it Kanya Man, and in that specific ad, which was made by some guy called Shreyansh Baig from Shreyansh Innovations Kolkata, they have put a question mark on the ancient, age-old Hindu custom of Kanyadan, which dates back to Rigved period, because it is mentioned indirectly in Surya Vivaha Sukt, that is Rigved 10.85. So it's a very ancient custom, and these people have actually raised certain various strong objections to Kanyadan. Now, I have been in this industry of marketing, communication, marketing, advertising, and across all media since the last 15 to 20 years. So I know that right from the very beginning, there has always been a trend amongst the film industry, the show business, and the advertising industry to always make fun of Hindu customs and cultures, because Hindus are extremely tolerant and they take everything with a pinch of salt. But now Hindus have started rising, and that's the reason why netizens and social media people are now rogering Manyavar, Alia Bhatt, and they are now a plethora of videos on YouTube which are condemning Manyavar's this ad. Some of them are vitriolic. I understand they are emotionally hurt, but no Hindu has ever taught or thought of countering the false propaganda against Kanyadan through this particular television commercial. It's a very clever way of hitting at Hindus' belief by demonizing it, illegitimizing it, and showing it in a bad light across all media. This is a very grand global strategy, conspiracy to dismantle Hindutva. As we have seen in North American universities recently, there was this dismantling global Hindutva and Hinduism conference was held on ground as well as online. So I am not going to chastise the makers of this Manyavar Mohe television stupid ad, but I am going to refute whatever they have portrayed in extremely sugar-coated words, in very Urdu words. The attack that they have done on Kanyadan, I am going to negate them on the basis of verses from the basic book of Hindu laws, Manusmriti, which is still used in which was used in Hindu Code Bill, Anglo-Hindu law during the British period, which was even referred to by Ambedkar, and even all the Hindu laws are of modern independent India are based on Manusmriti. So I am going to prove them wrong on the basis of exact verses of Manusmriti. So first, this character Alia Bhatt says, she implies to say, talk about freedom. She says, "Pura asman hota hai na ladki ka." So I would like to tell the makers of this television commercial to read Manusmriti 2.223, which says, if a woman or a man of low caste performs anything leading to happiness, let him or her diligently practice it, as well as any other permitted act in which his heart finds pleasure. So this is the basis of freedom in Hinduism. That if a kanya, if a girl or if a woman of any age, or any socio-economic bracket or any marital status or educational background, if she wants to do something good for herself in which her soul finds pleasure, then she is given absolute freedom to do it as long as she is not harming the law, the nation, or the society or humanity. Beyond this, she is allowed to do anything that she wants to do. There is no restriction on her. Hence, ये आसमान में उड़ने का बात आज से बहुत पहले in 10,000 before Christ, Manu had conceptualized this. Then the character Alia Bhatt says, ये घर मेरा नहीं है, बाबुल का घर मेरा नहीं है, अलग हो जाना पड़ेगा क्या? शादी के बाद अलग हो जाना जरूरी है क्या? So to this I will say, read Manu Smriti 4.185. As one's shadow, one's daughter is the highest object of tenderness. Hence, if one is offended by any one of the daughters, one must bear it without resentment. Here, what Manu is saying is that a daughter is never separated from her father because she is his soul, his shadow, Hamsaya. So, whatever happens in life, the girl's rights over her father, over her maternal, paternal, and parental home remains uncompromised. This is further reiterated by Manu in Manu 9.89. But the maiden, though marriageable, should rather stop in the father's house until death than that he should ever give her to a man destitute of good qualities. This means that if a girl is of marriageable age and if her father is not able to find a good suitor, then he should not get her married to any Tom, Dick and Harry. And perchance, by bad luck or misfortune, if the marriage goes bad, then the girl can anytime come back to her father's home, her birth home, her parental home, her marital home she has left, and she can come back to her maternal or paternal home. So never in Hinduism or in Manuvad is a girl's right over her family home or her right to stay over there or go back over there is never erased. Then the character Alia Bhatt says, क्या मैं वस्तु हूं, दान की चीज हूं? As I said, Manu 4.185 has already, I have shown it to you, that a daughter is regarded as one's shadow. One's daughter is the highest object of tenderness. Hence, if one is offended by any one of the daughters, one must bear it without resentment. This is in Manu 4.185. Then Manu 9.130 says, a son is even as oneself. Such a daughter is equal to a son. How can another heir take the estate while such an appointed daughter who is even oneself lives? A daughter is equivalent to a son. So over here we are saying that a girl, a daughter, a girl child is not an object to be donated. True, because she is as good as a son. Because she is her father's soul, her father's shadow. So she is not considered as an object. A daughter or a girl or a woman is never objectified in Manu Smriti. Then, in fact, a woman is considered as a Devi in Manuvad. I will tell you the exact shlok where Manu says this. Then the character Alia says, क्या मैं धन हूं जो आप मुझे दे रहे हो किसी को? So to this I will remind you of Manu 9.26 and 28. Between wives, striya, who are destined to bear children, who secure many blessings, who are worthy of worship and irradiate their dwellings, and between the goddesses of fortune, Shriya, who reside in the house of men, there is no difference whatsoever. Offspring, the due performance of religious rites on faithful service, highest conjugal happiness and heavenly bliss for the ancestors and oneself depends on one's wife alone. This means that a girl child, a Kanya, is considered as a Devi. That's the reason why she is the ghar ki izzat. She is the dhan, the wealth of her father, because she is a goddess. She is a Devi, a Kanya Kumari. So in this way, we call a daughter dhan. We don't consider her as paon ki juti. She is the pagdi of the father's head. She is the flag bearer of honor of our family. That way, she is the dhan of the family. She is considered as a Lakshmi. That's the reason why she is considered as dhan of the entire clan, not in a negative sense. Then Alia Bhatt, the character, goes on to teach us about Kanya Man. Kanya Man, she means by this term is that you have to respect, give man, give honor to the girl. Well, the makers of this television commercial are not aware that in 10,000 before Christ itself, Manu had given enough man, honor and respect and dignity to women. Because in Anu 9.26, 28 and 96, he says, between wives, striya, who are destined to bear children, who secure many blessings, who are worthy of worship and irradiate their dwellings, and between the goddesses of fortune, Shriya, who reside in the houses of men, there is no difference whatsoever. Offspring, the due performance on religious rites, faithful service, highest conjugal happiness, and heavenly bliss for the ancestors and oneself depend on one's wife alone. Religious rites, therefore, are ordained in the way to be performed by the husband together with the wife. Manu 3.56 says, where women are honored, there the gods are pleased. But where they are not honored, no sacred rite yields rewards. Manu 3.59. Hence, men who seek their own welfare should always honor women on holidays and festivals with gifts of ornaments, clothes, and dainty food. Manu 4.185. As one's shadow, one's daughter is the highest object of tenderness. Hence, if one is offended by any one of the daughters, one must bear it without resentment. Manu 9.130. A son is even as oneself. Such a daughter is equal to a son. How can another heir take the estate while such an appointed daughter who is even oneself lives? A daughter is equivalent to a son. So you don't have to teach us to give man, Kanya Man. Kanya Man we already knew before your brand Banyavar even was there in the galaxy. Then the character Alia Bhatt says, क्या मैं पराया हूँ? So to this we have to read Manu 9.95. The husband receives his wife from the gods. He does not wed her according to his own will, doing what is agreeable to the gods. He must always support her while she is faithful. So a father is considered as the custodian of his daughter till she marries or meets her soulmate, her life partner. Because in Hinduism they say that marriages are made in heaven. So that's the reason why they say that the father is taking care of the daughter till she is of marriageable age and finds her would-be husband with whom she is going to lead the rest of her life. And then he gives his daughter to that particular suitor. In that sense, a woman or a kanya is called paraya, not forever, because at the end of the day, she is the flesh, bone and blood of her own father, his soul and his shadow, as we have already seen. In this context, Mahabharat Adi Parv, Bakavada Parv 156.34 to 38 says, my daughter whom I have begotten myself, who hath been placed as a pledge in my hands by the Creator himself for bestowal on a husband. So this means that till the girl finds her life partner, her soulmate, she is under the custody of her father, and that's how he is a custodian. And at the end, he is going to hand her over to her soulmate. That's why in that sense, in that positive sense, she is called allegorically pariah. Then this character Alia Bhatt stupidly says, "Kyun nahi putradan?" Because since Kanyadan is done to a bridegroom, there is no scope for a parasitical ghar jamai. Manu 3.52. Stri dhanani tu ye mohadu pajivanti bandhavah nariyanani vastram vate papa yantya do gatim. Those relations who rob away or thrive on wealth, property, vehicles or dresses of a woman or her family are vilest of people. They commit sin and sink to hell. In Hindu religion, a man is not considered man enough if he is the gharjamai for no good reason. If he is a gharjamai just for the sake of being a social and financial parasite on his wife and her clan, then that man is not considered a man. He is considered a evil creature. Hence, Manu had in this verse banned gharjamai system so that no family has to bear the additional cost of the whims and fancies of a son-in-law. Would you prefer that your son-in-law stays in your house and eats from your wealth and farts around the whole house doing nothing and lives off your hard-earned money? Would you like that? Would any modern Hindu or any modern Christian or Muslim man like that? Family like that? Will any Western family allow such a gharjamai? No, nobody wants a gharjamai. It's considered bad to live on the wealth of the girl and her family. That's also a sort of long-term dahez. So that's the reason why we don't have putradan. Because putradan means that the family is giving their bridegroom to the girl's family to go and stay and suck off their reserves. That's the reason why we don't do putradan. Then, after understanding all this thing, I'm going to now enumerate in short the merits of Kanyadan. Kanyadan merits. First of all, we have seen, number one, that Kanyadan gets rid of the evil custom of gharjamai, where you have to actually take in a social and financial parasite and feed him of your hard-earned money even after your daughter is married to him. So this social evil is not allowed at all. Then another thing is there is that as per Manusmriti, Dan is always given to the most deserving person. In this context, Manu 8.179 says, a sensible man should make a deposit only with a person of good family, of good conduct, well acquainted with the law, veracious, having many relatives, wealthy and honorable. Arya. Manu 2.158 says, Yatha Shandho Afalaha Strishu Yatha Gauragavi Chafala Yatha Chajne Afalam Danam Tatha Afalaha. As an eunuch is unproductive with women, as a cow with a cow is unprolific, likewise a charity and gift done to an unworthy man is useless. So, a Kanya Dan is also a sort of Dan. So, that when you don't make Dan to an undeserving person, how can you give the Dan of a Kanya Dan, the most important Dan, to any Tom, Dick and Harry? That's the reason why Manu 3.130 says, let him make inquiries even regarding the remote ancestors of a Brahman who has studied an entire recession of the Ved. If descended from a virtuous race, such a man is a worthy recipient of gifts consisting of food offered to the gods or to the mains. He is declared to procure as great rewards as a guest Atithi. And in this context, the girl also says that don't give my Kanyadan to a bad man. So in this context, Manu 2.114 to 15 says, I am thy treasure. The girl says to the father, preserve me, deliver me not to a scorner. So, preserved, I shall become supremely strong, but deliver me as to the keeper of thy treasure, to a Brahman whom thou shalt know to be pure, of subdued senses, chaste and attentive. So a girl also tells her father that please give me to a good human. Here it's a reference is given to a Brahman. It could be anybody. It could be a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, anybody, but who is having all the qualities of a good human being. So that's what the request even the girl makes, because that's the law. Kanyadan, like any other dan, is not to be given to any Tom, Dick and Harry. It should always be given to the best person. Then Kanyadan respects girls' desires. Dan doesn't mean that you are arbitrarily pushing the girl into the arms of another man. No. What is the proof? Manu 3.35 says, Adbhireva Dvijar Griyanam Kanyadanam Vishishtayate Itaresham tu Varnana Mita Retaraka Mayaya. The gift of daughters among Brahmins is most approved if it is preceded by a libation of water. But in the case of other castes, it may be performed by the expression of mutual consent. So this means that even in Kanyadan, the mutual consent of the father, the bride and the bridegroom, that is the girl, the Kanya and the boy, and both the clans has to be there. Then a ritual has to be done, or it can even be verbal for the case of other non-Brahmin communities. But mutual consent of the Kanya and the Var is 150% required. So the girl's desires, her rights to choose her suitor are protected in Kanyadan. Then, no dowry. Kanyadan is a nemesis of Dahej Pratha. I have already told you that the long-term indirect Dahej of Gharjamaiship is erased in Kanyadan. Then even direct or naked version of Dahej Pratha is also curbed in Kanyadan. How? Look at this thing. Manu 3.52 says, Stri dhanani tu ye mohadu pajivanti bandhavaha nariyanani vastram vate papa yantya dhogatim. Those relatives who rob away or thrive on wealth, property, vehicles or dresses of a woman or her family are vilest of people. They commit sin and sink to hell. I have already told you that being a Gharjamai, you cannot just enter and become a financial parasite for the girl's parents. Plus, this same verse is also against Asur Vivah. That is any marriage form where money transaction is happening on either side or on both sides. So, this Kanyadan removes the possibility of the bridegroom and his family asking for money. Because if I am giving dan to somebody, to you, you cannot tell me that now you give me only this thing, or you give me additional thing, or you give me dowry. I cannot. I am giving you dan. So if I am giving you dan, why the fuck should I again give you something else? So that way Kanyadan removes the case for Dahej Pratha at all. Then Yagyavalkya has already also added to this thing. Yagyavalkya Smriti 1.60 says, Ityuktva charatang dharmang saha ya diyethar thine sa kaya pava ye taja shat shadavang shyana sahat mana. Where the gift of a daughter is done by her father, saying, apart from this daughter of mine, I have no other wealth, clothes, ornaments, lands to give to you. Hence, accept my girl and earn riches on your own efforts. May you two do all your obligations together. Damn! Yagyavalkya hits it bang on. He says that this is what I have. This is what I can give. This is my daughter. This is all I can give you as per my capacity, or I don't have anything to give apart from my daughter. Marry her, take her, and then you two work as two partners. And he tells the man that you earn wealth on your own. Don't expect dowries from me. So Kanyadan kills the Dahej Pratha forever. Then Kanyadan ensures husband never forgets her value. Husband is to treat his wife in the best manner as per Kanyadan Pratha. I have already told you this verse. I will still repeat. Manu 9.95. देवदत्तं पतिर्भार्यं विन्दते नेच्छाया आत्मनः तां साध्वीं बिभीर यन्न नित्यं देवानां प्रियमाचरण. The husband receives his wife from the gods. He does not wed her according to his own whims and will. Doing what is agreeable to the gods, he must always support her while she is faithful. Parents give Kanyadan to permanently dawn upon their son-in-law that they are doing a favor on their clan by giving their daughter. So in Kanyadan, when you are giving dan to somebody, that dan is of and beneficial to the recipient. Similarly, when I am giving Kanyadan, I am actually doing a great charity, a great service to the bridegroom and his family and his whole clan. So that's the reason why this makes the husband under legal and social obligation and even religious obligation to treat his wife like a queen and never to mistreat her, beat her or kill her or torture her in any way. Then Kanyadan is done when she is of marriageable major age. Thus, child marriage is eliminated. How? Manu 9.90. 3 years let a damsel wait, though she be marriageable, but after that let her choose for herself a bridegroom of equal caste and rank. So this says that a girl should be married or given in Kanyadan only after she is beyond her puberty, beyond her childhood, and she has entered the marriageable age and completed her education and all, because even in Vedic times girls used to practice brahmachari and complete their education. So Kanyadan terminates child marriage and pedophilia forever. Then, since Kanyadan is done to a bridegroom, there is no scope for parasitical ghar jamai, which I have already told you. Kanyadan does away with bride trade. Kanyadan nullifies meher culture and daughter sale. Amongst the desert cult people, they have this custom of reverse dowry, dower, or what they call meher. So the girl's father gets money from the bridegroom in return for his daughter being given away as his wife. So what happens is that usually the father actually sells the daughter to any man that he thinks can pay the price. This is considered as Asur Vivah, and this is banned. Dowry is banned in Manusmriti, even reverse dowry is banned in Manusmriti. So look at this thing. Manu 3.31. Gyatibhyo dravinam datva kanyayai chaiva shaktitah kanya pradanam swachandaya suro dharma uchyate. When the bridegroom receives the maiden after having given as much wealth as he can afford to the kinsman and to the bride herself according to his own will, that is called the Asur right. No father who knows the law must take even the smallest gratuity for his daughter. For a man who through avarice takes a gratuity is a seller of his offspring. Then Manu continues. Manu 3.51. Na kanya pita grihniyat shulkam manvapi grihnam shulkam hi lobhen syannaro apatya vikrahi. The wise father of the girl shall not take anything by way of fee from her groom. By taking a dowry out of greed, bride price, he becomes a seller of his offspring. The learned father of the girl should not accept even the least amount of price. Accepting the price out of greed, he becomes the seller of his children. Manu 11.62. So if a father takes money and gives his daughter in marriage without her consent to another man, wealthy man, he's actually trading in his daughter. He's actually a sort of human trafficker. So such human traffickers are given death sentence in Manu's society and they are, before killing them, they are even ostracized. Look at this thing. Manu 11.62. Defiling a damsel, one's own daughter, or selling a one's child is a sin of the same rank. Manu 9.98. Even a Shudra ought not to take a nuptial fee when he gives away his daughter. For he who takes a fee sells his daughter, covering the transaction by another name. Manu 9.100. Nor, indeed, have we heard, even in former creations, of such a thing as the covert sale of a daughter for a fixed price, called a nuptial fee. Manu 3.53. Many rishis have prescribed a token fee of a pair of cow and a bull in Arsh marriage, but even that is akin to selling your daughter. And then he again says that if the father also tries to live on his daughter's body's earning because he's selling the daughter to a rich man, he is also becoming as much as a sinner as a dowry seeker. Manu 3.52. Stri dhanani tu ye moha du pajivanti bandhavaha nariyani vastram vate papa yantya dhogatim. Those relatives who rob away or thrive on wealth, property, vehicles or dresses of a woman or her family are vilest of people. They commit sin and sink to hell. The same verse is also applicable to the girl's parents who are trying or who are conceiving of selling her to a man under the form of meher pratha. Then Kanyadan eradicates forced wedlocks by abduction, that is Rakshas Viva or Pishach Viva. Manu 8.227. Pani Grahanika Mantra Niyatam Dara Lakshanam Tesham Nishoha tu Vidyeya Vidvadabhi Saptame Pade. The nuptial texts are a certain proof that a maiden has been made a lawful wife. But the learned should note that they and the marriage ceremony are complete with the seventh step of the bride around the sacred fire. This means that without a legitimate Kanyadan, the marriage is illegal, null, void, legally unforeseeable, unethical, immoral, unlawful, illegal. So, Manu 8.168. What is given by force? What is enjoyed by force? Also, what has been caused to be written by force? And all other transactions done by force, Manu has declared void. And such a marriage where no legal Kanyadan is there, means if they are eloping and marrying, that's a different thing. But suppose if some powerful person grabs, which happens in certain hinterland places of India, if the girl is kidnapped and if they're trying to force her into marriage, without a proper Kanyadan, legal Kanyadan, the marriage is not legally proved. Then, in the same vein, Kanyadan vetoes out fraudulent marriages. Manu 8.164 to 165. That agreement which has been made contrary to the law or to the settled usage of the virtuous can have no legal force, though it be established by proofs. A fraudulent mortgage or sale, a fraudulent gift or acceptance, and any transaction where he detects fraud, the judge shall declare it null and void. This means that if any Kanyadan is given, and after giving the Kanyadan, if the father realizes that he has been tricked into the marriage, his daughter has been befooled into the wedlock, then he can say that the marriage is null and void and he can take back the daughter. This brings us to another question. Father can take her dan back if not treated well. In Hinduism, you give dan, you can also take it back if the dan is misused. So if you are giving Kanyadan and if you see that your daughter is suffering, if she's been tormented, then you can take back your daughter. And any case, her umbilical relations with you, her socio-judicial relations with your family and your house remains intact. And in Kanyadan, this is further preserved when it says that in Kanyadan, if the wife is being neglected by her husband or being dilapidated by her husband, her father can take her back. Manu 8.149. A pledge, a boundary, the property of infants, an open deposit, a sealed deposit, women, the property of the king and the wealth of a Srotriya are not lost in consequence of adverse enjoyment. Now, coming to another and the last, this is the 11th point. Kanyadan ensures no adultery and no polygamy and bigamy. Why? Because number one, we have seen Kanyadan means that the marriage is by gods, so the husband is under obligation. He is obliged to treat his wife properly, which also includes marital fidelity towards her. Plus, Manu 3.30 says, Sahau bhau charatam dharma miti vacha anubhashya cha kanya pradanama abhyarachya prajapatyo vidhi smritah. The gift of a daughter by her father after he has addressed the couple with the text, may both of you perform together your rites, and has shown honor to the bridegroom and bride, is called in the Smriti the Prajapatya rite. So means when he is giving Kanyadan, he tells them that you two be united together till eternity and even beyond eternity. So this means in a way Kanyadan is also cementing the marital bond, and it is proliferating marital fidelity, loyalty, honesty and chastity and commitment. That's the reason why, taking in consideration all these 10 benefits or 11 benefits of Kanyadan, our ancestors have said that Kanyadan is equal to Putreshti Yagya. Neel Tantra 15.29 to 32. Kanyadan of one's own child and that of others is a highly meritorious act. Neel Saraswati Tantra 15.32 to 35. When a man gives Kanyadan of another girl, he gets spiritual merits till one, Kalp and Swarg. It is best to give Kanyadan of helpless people's daughters. Doing so removes all ill luck in life, and one gets respect in the government, kingship, society and good health. Rudra Yamala Tantra Uttara Tantra 7.41. Rudra Loke Vasen Niyatyang Trinetro Bhagwan Haraha Tirtha Koti Sahasrani Ashwamedhasthani Cha. That devotee who does even one Kanyadan earns the merits of 100 pilgrimages, countless Ashwamedh Yagyas, and resides permanently in Rudralok. So, Miss Alia Bhatt, makers of this television commercial at that particular agency, and the brand managers and the entire owner family of Manyavar, keep your Kanya Manya to yourself. Don't teach us. Kanyadan has got certain spiritual, religious, financial, social, human rights benefits, feminist benefits, and please don't try to attack Hindu religion and tradition. If you have guts, why don't you make a television commercial, twist it around halala, nikah almuta, burkha, teen talaq, or the rape of nuns in Christian monasteries. Why don't you spin around? Why don't you tell your Calcutta-based agency to think of some Manyavar mohe ads around these things? You will not, because they are against your agenda. Your agenda is to demean Hinduism. I have proved that your entire premise, their entire consumer insight, the strategy insight of the cultural insight of your television commercial on which it is based is wrong, is flawed. Please refrain from doing such things, or else we keep on getting bricks and bats from netizens, and it is going to harm your brand equity and brand goodwill.